بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. Let's make our intentions for the sake of Allah. We're going to continue in speaking about Musa alayhi salam. So the title of the next part of his life is Qaaroon, the evil cousin. So like all the prophets, Prophet Musa alayhi salam had many hardships that he endured, but he practiced a sabr, patience. One report that shows the endurance of Prophet Musa alayhi salam is the story of the harm that his cousin inflicted upon him. So I'd like to say here firstly that with relatives, whether they are one's first cousins or they are one's aunts and uncles, or even perhaps within the nuclear family, there might be siblings, or there might be a parent, a son, a niece and a nephew. These are the hardships, where they concern or relate to these people, that are the deepest. They are the ones that can hurt the most because literally it is so close to home. So the prophets, they were no different in that. Look at our prophet, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, his own family members, his own uncles. Usually your father's brother loves you and is very close to you. You would look up to him and he would care for you. Especially in the case of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, you would expect that his uncles, who knew that this is our nephew, he is an orphan, he was an orphan, his father died, he never saw his father. His father passed away when he was still in the womb. But these very people, these very uncles, some of them, and other relatives of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, took him as an enemy. They refused to believe in him. They harmed him, not just in private. Sometimes some relatives, some people who are close to you, may shun you, they may ignore you. And that hurts, but it's done in private. When you, for example, you may go, and I get questions like this all the time about people and their family members and so on and so on. Questions like when we're in public, we're in a family gathering, we're in a wedding, we're in the hall, or we're at a funeral, then in front of others, they will treat us well and so on. But in private, they will not. On the street, if they pass by us, they will shun us. So they keep the grudge a private grudge. With the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and his non-believing family members, his relatives, they did not keep the enmity private. They let the public know that we have, if you will, disowned our nephew, or that we are outraged by what he is doing and saying and calling towards. So the Prophet did not have their support. So that hurts a lot. The Prophet loved al-Islam for them. This is an important matter also to touch upon. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, one of his uncles, who did not show him enmity, and he was Abu Talib, but he supported him, except that he didn't believe. He didn't say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. He was not a Muslim. And the scholars said it's not permissible to say that the Prophet loved his uncle. And that is because it is not permissible, it's not appropriate to attribute to a Prophet that he loved the self of a person who did not believe in Allah or did not believe in Islam. So we don't say the Prophet loved Abu Talib. We don't say the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam loved his uncle Abu Talib. Rather we say the Prophet loved al-Islam for him. He would have loved for him to be a Muslim. And he even whispered to him on the deathbed of Abu Talib, saying, Ya am qul la ilaha illallah أشهد لك بها عند الله. Say La ilaha illallah, O uncle, and I will stand as a witness on the day of judgment. I will testify that you said it. You said the testifications of faith. But he refused. So then when he died, his son Sayyiduna Ali radiyallahu anhu came and said to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Inna ammaka al-shaykh al-kafir qad mat. He said to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, your kafir uncle, meaning his own father, he said, your kafir uncle has died. In another narration, Inna ammaka al-shaykh al-dal. Your misguided old uncle, old as in age, has died. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all the other prophets, we cannot attribute to them that they loved the people of misguidance, even if they were among their family members. Ibrahim alayhi salam, his father, some said his name was Azar, and some said that was his uncle, did not believe. He did not believe. But Ibrahim alayhi salam loved al-Islam for him. But Azar did not believe. So, point being, that when it comes to a person's relatives, the wound that they make, this can be a deep one because it's so close to home. And the prophets and the pious people, they are not exempt from that. The prophets, after all, were human beings. Yes, Allah bestowed bounties and blessings upon them, but they suffered the most. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said that himself. He said, أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ بَلَاءً الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. The people who are afflicted the most are the prophets. Nowadays a person might say, for example, I'm in debt, my brother hates me, he won't let me see his children, I can't play with my nieces and nephews, my sister doesn't allow me to come to her house, I can't buy them gifts, they don't want me to call on Eid, my father, he doesn't want to see me, my mother, she has a grudge against me because I went to see my khala to keep ties with her sister, but she doesn't want me to, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. A person says, also, I'm in debt, also, I don't have any friends, also, I don't. One of us nowadays, we might have some hardships, but the prophets, they had the most hardships, and the Prophet testified to that, alayhi salatu wasalam. He said that the prophets have the most hardships. Anything you have, you can multiply it by 100. The prophets had that or it's more than that. Anything you have. Our Prophet suffered the death of multiple children in his life. This can be one of the most difficult things, to lose a child. To lose one child, a person feels like, if they lose a child, they feel like they're going to die. That's how tough it is. Our Prophet lost more than one child, alayhi salatu wasalam, in his lifetime. And then there were other matters. He lost his mother. He didn't even see his father. So the prophets, they are afflicted with the most hardships. Here we're going to look at a story about Musa alayhi salam and how his cousin hurt him. So Musa alayhi salam had a cousin named Qaaroon. And Allah granted Qaaroon much wealth that even strong men, so he had gold and silver and other treasures, that very strong men could not carry even the keys to the boxes of wealth he had. Such was his wealth in treasure, gold and silver, that what it was kept in, these large treasures, these large boxes and safes, they had keys. Some of the keys were so big, like man-sized keys, that strong soldiers, maybe 20 or 30 of them, would be needed to carry the key, to put it in the slot, and then to turn it in some way. That's how much Qaaroon was given. Even the key itself, very, very strong men, only very strong men were able to carry. But Qaaroon, he showed off and was not grateful to Allah Ta'ala. He wore fancy clothes and prided himself over the people. He strutted around. And he lived in large palaces, showing off with many slaves and servants. When people advised him to give up your arrogance, he refused. Qaaroon believed that he was accepted by Allah, and that's why Allah gave him all of these things. And this is a trick of the devil. That the devil tells a person, Allah accepts you. You have a high rank. Look, Allah gave you status. People love you. Allah gave you wealth. You're comfortable. You're not out on the street. You're not thinking, you're not worried about what you're going to eat tonight. There is food in the fridge and more. And you can easily buy. The devil tells some people that you've lived a long life and you're still healthy. Your health is a sign that Allah is accepting of you. But there is no correlation between being healthy and being accepted by Allah. You can be healthy, a person may be healthy, but they may be the worst of creation. Why are they healthy? This is a further test for them. A person may have lots of wealth, that doesn't mean that they're accepted by Allah. Most of the people that enter paradise, they are poor. Most of them. So, being wealthy and being accepted by Allah, there is no positive correlation between the two. That's not saying that there aren't people who have wealth and are accepted by Allah. No, there are people like that. But this is a trick of the devil. So those people, then they don't think twice about themselves and their intentions. They continue living life, deluded. This is the case for a lot of people. But then there are also a lot of people, not as many, but a lot of people whom Allah has granted health, has granted wealth, and they perform their obligations, and they take care of their family, and they provide, and they have good manners. These people are accepted by Allah Ta'ala, but they are much less in number than those people who are misguided or deluded. So he thought that Allah is accepting of him, and that is why he has all this money. Allah Ta'ala revealed to Musa alayhi salam that what is upon the people is that they are obligated to pay a certain amount of wealth, zakah, to certain people. So Musa alayhi salam told his cousin Qaaroon to pay 1 dinar, 1 golden coin, for each 1,000 dinars that he had, and to give 1 dirham, 1 silver coin, for each 1,000 dirhams he had. When Qaaroon calculated the amount that he would need to pay, he considered that amount as enormous. Enormous. Like a person today, if they have saved up £40,000, a 40th of that is 1,000. They might consider it in zakah, they might consider that to be a huge loss. Some people are in love with money. It's addictive. Just like a person becomes addicted to a certain food. I'm using the word addicted loosely. They want to eat it all the time. They're a sugar addict. Okay? This person, like that. Some people with coffee. It's not as dangerous. Some people with coffee. If you if you drink a lot of coffee or even tea, sometimes you might find that you're in the kitchen and automatically, just without thinking, like a zombie, you put the kettle on and you've already got the tea bag out and you're thinking about something else because the nafs is saying, you need some caffeine. And then there are people who are actually addicted to things like drugs and so on, and addicted to other things. They have that thrill. Some people have this thrill with money. The scholars, they warned against this and they spoke about it. Some scholars said that the effect that money has upon people and the desire to increase one's money, just that idea of, oh, I need some more money. Just that idea of when they acquire that money, it feels pleasurable when they see the numbers ticking. They see another 1,000 or another 100 each time. To what end? Some scholars said that تأثير المال يشبه تأثير السحر. That the effect that money has on some people is like the effect of being bewitched, like the effect of magic. It's as though it stops people acting normally. The scholar said if you want to test a person's loyalty, you want to test how responsible they are, give them a task with money. See how they do. Make it be something that's personal to them. See how they are with their own money. Are they willing to give a little bit? Are they willing to... How far will they go? Of course, there are many matters to be considered also. We're not going into all of them. But when he calculated that money that he needed to pay, he saw it as an enormous amount. And he was overwhelmed. Such that he left al-Islam. He left al-Islam. He gathered some of his supporters and he said to them, Musa commanded you with so many things and you obeyed him. Now Musa wants to take away your money. A'udhu billah. So they said to him, command us, Qaaroon, command us with whatever you wish. So he said, bring a sinful woman and pay her to lie, like to bring a prostitute or someone, and pay her to lie and say that Moses wanted to do a lowly act with me. To accuse a prophet of that, but to lie about a prophet in this regard. This is kufr, of course, blasphemy. What disgusting behavior. So they brought a sinful woman and they promised her a lot of gold. This was Musa alayhi salam's cousin, family. On a day of feast, Qaaroon came to Musa alayhi salam pretending to be loving. He said, your people have gathered so that you will command them to do the lawful and abstain from the unlawful. This is what the devil does sometimes. The devil, he tricks a person because he has an end goal. So the devil, he wants a person to slip up. So he might even decorate that with something good at first. So he doesn't mind if a person does something that is good, which gets them closer to, let's say, the cliff's edge. So he said, come, the people have gathered. Perhaps you want to tell them about doing the obligations and staying away from the unlawful. So Prophet Musa alayhi salam told the people, the one that steals has the punishment of his hand being cut off. And the unmarried one who commits adultery is lashed. And the married one who commits adultery is stoned to death. So Musa alayhi salam, he mentioned religious rules to the people. There was a large gathering. And so he conveyed these rules. The one that steals, his hand is cut off. The one that is not married and he commits fornication, he will be lashed. The one that is married, and he commits adultery, then he will be stoned to death. Qaaroon shouted out, he said, even if it was you, Musa, A'udhu billah. He said, even if it was you, Musa. So then Musa alayhi salam said, A'udhu billahi minka, meaning, I seek the protection of Allah against you, Qaaroon, because this is kufr. Musa alayhi salam knows that he is a prophet. And for someone to attribute, we know it's kufr, right? To attribute to a prophet this indecent, lowly act. Musa alayhi salam is a prophet, he's more knowledgeable than us, he knows that too. So, because look, what is Musa alayhi salam worried about? Someone accuses him of this lowly act. Musa alayhi salam knows this is kufr, but he's also worried about some other people who might believe that, who might doubt. Doubting about this matter is also kufr. In that large gathering of people, just because Qaaroon spoke and I said, what about if it was you, Musa? Somebody might think, yeah, what if Musa did it? As though it's possible, this would be kufr. So Musa alayhi salam said, A'udhu billahi minka. I seek the protection of Allah against you. I do not approach sins. Meaning this is something that is not possible for a prophet. Qaaroon said, Bani Israel are lying. They said that you committed adultery with such and such evil woman. Musa alayhi salam said, call her. So they called for her, and then Musa alayhi salam, he uttered a vow in the name of Allah Ta'ala, who split the sea for him and who revealed a Torah, and he asked her by that vow to say the truth. He said, by Allah who split the sea for me. Look at the strength of this vow. Imagine someone here, imagine that woman who has succumbed to this desire of taking all that money to tell this lie. Imagine a messenger of Allah saying to her, her soul would have trembled. Musa alayhi salam said, I ask you by Allah who split the sea for me. Didn't he take Bani Israel? He said, I ask you to tell the truth by Allah who split the sea for me and the one that revealed the Torah to me. I ask you to tell the truth. You can imagine she shook. So she repented of her sins. And she told the people, Musa alayhi salam is innocent of these accusations. And Qaaroon paid me to say that Musa alayhi salam committed adultery with me. Of course it means she repented, she embraced Islam. She would have said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Musa Rasulullah. Because that's how you embrace Islam. You know the sin, you know that sin to be kufr, accusing a prophet of adultery. And then embracing Islam by uttering the two testifications. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. That's what we say in this nation. They would have said Musa Rasulullah. So Musa alayhi salam performed sajda. That Allah Ta'ala, out of gratefulness to Allah for granting him victory over the oppressors. And Musa alayhi salam received revelation from Allah that the earth would obey him in whatever he commands. On the next day, Qaaroon went out as usual in one of his processions. He had thousands of servants and people that attended. He wore clothes that were ornamented with gold and jewels hanging from his clothing. At the front, Qaaroon, he rode a black and white decorated female mule. Even his donkey, even the mule was decorated. And others were mounting behind. So you can imagine this procession. The people are watching all of this. And the deceived among them, the deluded among them said, may Qaaroon enjoy his blessings. He's so lucky with his money and his high status. When some of the pious people heard that, they advised them, don't be deceived by the wealth of the world. When Qaaroon reached a place where Prophet Musa alayhi salam was teaching the people, Qaaroon called out to Musa, Ya Musa, if you were preferred to me in prophecy, meaning you were preferred over me in prophecy, you were given prophethood. He said, I was preferred to you with money. I was chosen to be granted wealth to. If you want, make a supplication to God against me. As though he's saying, I'm untouchable. I have my wealth. I can buy my way out of any legal system. I can bribe any person, and so on and so forth. He said, make dua against me. So Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he came with a steady heart, relying on Allah. And he started to make dua, asking for help. So Musa alayhi salam, he started to make dua, Ya Allah, command the earth to obey me today. And then Musa alayhi salam addressed the earth, saying, O earth, take them. And then instantly Qaaroon and his followers began sinking into the ground. First, just their feet sank. So it wasn't sudden. It wasn't sudden that they just were swallowed. First their feet sank. Then Musa alayhi salam said, O earth, take them to their knees. So they sunk slowly to their knees. Imagine the fear and the horror that they would have experienced. Then Musa alayhi salam, he asked the earth to sink them to their shoulders, and it did. And finally, Musa alayhi salam commanded the earth to take them completely, along with their treasures. The earth trembled under the house of Qaaroon, even his possessions. And it swallowed all of the money of Qaaroon that was within the house. When some of the people who were watching saw that, they repented. And they praised Allah Ta'ala. And they thanked Allah that they were not made like Qaaroon and his followers. MashaAllah. Our Shaykh, he would say regularly, Al-mal imtihanur rijal. Money is a test for people. He said also, Al-malu yujannin. Money makes people crazy. Many people. Many people don't have that control. It's like they're intoxicated. With some people, just the idea of more money, like I said, this is intoxicating. Even without the desire for spending it. Even without the desire of having the luxury of spending it upon things that are not needed. Then there are those people that just desire to spend. Sometimes they compete with others. Sometimes they buy a house just to pride this house over another person who purchased a house. But theirs has a few more bedrooms or a bigger garden. So they purchased it out of pride, which is an enormous sin. So again, through the stories of the prophets, we learn many things that we're able to relate to today in what we see around us. Money can ruin people. If a person makes dua, then they would make dua in terms of money. They should make dua, Ya Allah, grant me what is enough for me. When we say, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana, it means, Ya Allah, grant me in this life what is good for me. For many people, a lot of money is not good for them. because it distracts them. It takes their time away from that which is important. Some people say that having a lot of money, it brings a lot of opportunity. In some things, yes. But if a person is not controlled, then they can be very distracted. One of the scholars, he said, you're very busy in gathering wealth for your inheritors, making sure that they have enough after you die, given that you die first. But you do not know what will be the state of the people after you. You do not know the state of your children. That same wealth that you strived for, that you exerted your efforts, sweat and blood, if you will, that same money that you earned in a halal way may, after you pass, be spent in what is haram. So one asks for that which is enough, and one uses that wealth to obey Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So that's as far as we're going to mention today about the biography of Musa alayhi salam. We have a few things left. MashaAllah, we've spoken at length about Musa alayhi salam. In the next session, we will speak about the passing of Musa alayhi salam and his brother Qaaroon alayhi salam. And then we will move on to Prophet Yusha, who we've spoken about a little bit already. He was the young man, the fata, the young man that was with Prophet Musa alayhi salam when Prophet Musa alayhi salam met Al-Khadir. Right. We're going to switch now to speaking about the congregational prayer. Can you hear me at the back? All right. So, let's mention some general statements first. In the prayer, remember you're following the Imam. Okay? When you're following the Imam, you have to follow the Imam in everything that the Imam does that is fard. There are some obligations, 6 fard matters of the prayer. If the Imam does these obligations, you follow, of course. Right, that's the fard out of the way. Now you have the wajib matters. When it comes to the wajib matters, if the Imam does the wajib matters, you do them. If the Imam misses a wajib matter, you miss it as well. You might ask, wait a second. The Imam didn't do the wajib. Shall I not do the wajib either? Correct. Imam missed it, you miss it as well. Okay, so after that is clear, we can move on to the next cases, inshaAllah. So, the Imam, what's the one that follows the Imam called? What's he called in Arabic? So, the Imam is called the Imam, okay? What's the other person called? The one who follows the Imam? Muqtadi, very good. There's another name as well. Sounds like, well, it's got a meme in it. It's got 2 memes in it. Ma'moom. Which word do you use to Muqtadi or Ma'moom? For Muqtadi or Ma'moom? Or maybe neither. The follower, yeah? The follower. So when we say the follower, will mean the person who's praying behind the Imam. Okay? So, likewise, so the follower must follow his Imam in the wajib parts. If the Imam leaves them, the follower leaves them as well. Okay. And if the Imam performs them, the follower performs them as well. This is the case if he was to do something different from the Imam.
This is the case if he was to do something different from what the imam does in the wajib, whether leaving or performing it. Okay, so he has to follow the imam. Remember, what are the wajib matters? Do you remember some of the wajib matters? What are they? Let's go back. The fard matters are 6, okay? Starting the prayer, initiating the prayer. Then standing if you're able, that's number 2. Number 3 is reciting something from the Quran. Then you have what? Ruku', sujood. What else? Wait, how did I only get to 4? 1 second. Initiating the prayer, standing, reciting the Quran. Yeah, ruku', because I was counting on both hands, you see. All right. Ruku', sujood, and lastly, number 6, final sitting. Okay? Fine. Everything else is not fard. What are the wajibs? So we're focusing on the wajibs now. Wajibs are, for example, saying Allahu Akbar is wajib to start the prayer. Saying Allahu Akbar is wajib. Notice how we said initiating the prayer is fard, but saying Allahu Akbar is wajib. They're two different things. Starting the prayer is one thing, initiating the prayer, and starting the prayer by saying Allahu Akbar is a different thing. Anyway, so saying Allahu Akbar is wajib. Reciting Al-Fatiha is wajib. Reciting a surah after Al-Fatiha is wajib, not fard. It's wajib. When you're in ruku' and you say Sami Allahu liman hamidah, when you straighten up, that's wajib. Remaining motionless when standing up for the time it takes to say Subhanallah is wajib. Sitting in between the 2 sajdas, or getting close to sitting between the 2 sajdas, is wajib. Reciting at-tahiyyat in the first sitting, second rak'ah, is wajib. Sitting there is wajib, okay? The salam at the end is wajib. These are wajibs. These are wajibs, okay? Now, we said, if the imam does the wajib, you do the wajib. If the imam doesn't do the wajib, you also miss the wajib, okay? Now, new rule. You cannot be seen to be opposing the imam in a very strong way, like what we're going to mention. It's not that if the imam misses the wajib, you do the wajib. No. Or if the imam does the wajib, then you miss the wajib. No. You're not supposed to oppose the imam in a very apparent way like that. And we're going to mention that now, some examples and the judgment of that. Okay? So, if the follower chooses or displays a strong deviation from the imam, then he would be missing a wajib. So also, one of the wajibs of the prayer is to follow the imam in doing the wajib. That's a must. Also, one of the musts in the prayer is to follow the imam if he misses a wajib. Okay, that's a must. So, an example. Let's say, I'll use this example, because the other example might not apply to everybody. Okay. Let's say we're praying Al-Maghrib. What prayer are we praying? Just say with me, yeah? Okay. So, in the second rak'ah, it's wajib to sit. The imam, after he's done his 2 sajdas in the second rak'ah, he would usually sit and recite at-tahiyyat. And that is wajib. So if the imam sits and does that wajib, then you as the follower must also do that wajib. Let's say the imam, after the second sajda in the second rak'ah, he went and stood up. He went and stood up. So he missed the wajib. What should you do? You shouldn't say, oh, we're supposed to sit down now, Mr. Imam. Okay, like you don't tell yourself that and you stay sitting down. Okay? He misses the wajib, he stood up, you also stand up. in this case, if a person decided to remain sitting down when the Imam stood up, then we're going to talk about the judgment of that. I'll give you one more example before I go into that. The Imam, he might have done something in the prayer that you didn't realize. I'll give you an example. Let's say I was the Imam and I'm leading the prayer. And we're praying al-Dhuhr. You won't be able to hear me recite, right? I'm praying al-Dhuhr. So imagine in the prayer, in the first rak'ah, I recited al-Fatiha. You wouldn't know because it's slow. And I forgot to recite a surah after al-Fatiha. So all you saw was I said Allahu Akbar, you said Allahu Akbar. I was silent for a while, then I said Allahu Akbar, I went to ruku'. As far as you're thinking, oh, he recited al-Fatiha, he recited a surah after al-Fatiha. But let's say I forgot to recite a surah after al-Fatiha. I accidentally missed a wajib. Right. What's going to happen now at the end of the prayer? I, as the Imam, need to perform sujood as-sahu. So what's going to happen at the end of the prayer, in the last rak'ah, when we've recited al-tahiyyat and as-salah ala nabi and as-salat al-ibrahimiyya, I will say assalamu alaikum, and then I'll say Allahu Akbar and go into sajda.
I taught them before the Salah Nabi. You said after the Salah Nabi. I taught them not before.
What's that?
You started the Shahad to do the Salah then.
Oh, for the Imam? Yeah, no, you're right, sorry. My mistake, yes. So after, in the last rak'ah, let's say I recited at-tahiyyat, okay? And then after that, I say this, you're right. Then I say the salam, okay? I say the salam, assalamu alaikum. And then I say Allahu Akbar and I go into sajda. Okay, thank you. Then here, you as the follower, you'd have to follow me. Now, you don't know why, right? How would you know? But because I'm the Imam, you would have to follow me. I know why I'm doing sujood as-sahu, because I forgot to recite the surah after al-Fatiha. So you have to follow me here. It's wajib for you to follow me. If you did not follow me, then you would be considered to be displaying a very obvious, let's say, opposition to me as the Imam. Because you did not follow me, you would be sinful. That's one thing. And the second thing is, in this example, because I did sujood as-sahu, I did the sajda at the end of the prayer, and you did not, then in this case you would be sinful. Then there's one more case where the scholars mention that if the follower shows a strong deviation in the prayer, for example, I didn't do sujood as-sahu. I didn't do sujood as-sahu, but you did. I decided to end the prayer, and you decided to perform sujood as-sahu. Then the prayer of the follower is invalidated. There are some other examples of this also, but I think that should suffice for now. So you know that there are examples where, look, how would a person know what they have to do? They'd have to know what the fard parts of the prayer are. There are 6. And they'd have to know what the wajib parts of the prayer are. So when you're following, it's not just that I'm just standing there. I'm just standing there. You said Allahu Akbar, yeah, go down. That's not. One is thinking about the signs of the power of Allah Ta'ala. And one is also following what the Imam is doing. One is understand, okay, now he's gone into this, now he's gone into that. So a person would know if they've missed something. Some people, they are kind of clueless in the prayer, and this might happen to one of us, from time to time. But there will be some people who are so distracted in the prayer that if the Imam was reciting Al-Fatiha and then went straight into sajda without doing a ruku', some people would not notice. Some people, they would not notice. Because they're on autopilot, as it were. Okay, number 5. It is forbidden for the follower to go ahead of one's imam by one obligatory integral of action in the prayer. An example. If the follower was to go down into ruku', to perform ruku', and then he rose from ruku' whilst the imam is still reciting from the Quran. The imam is reciting مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين, for example, and the follower says Allahu Akbar and the follower has got into ruku'. The imam is still reciting اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Behind him the ma'moom says سمع الله لمن حمده. He's in a hurry. Then this is forbidden. The Prophet ﷺ said, does the one that raises his head from a ruku' like this, while the imam is still standing, doesn't the one that raises his head before the imam, does he not fear that Allah would turn his head into the head of a donkey? So this is sinful, of course. So up to here, we don't say that the prayer is invalidated though. If someone did that, we wouldn't say, oh, your prayer is invalid now. No, up to here it's sinful. We do not say that his prayer is invalidated unless he does not repeat this act in this example of ruku'. If he does not repeat it with his imam or after his imam, and he says Assalamu alaikum at the end of the prayer, and only then he realizes that the follower's prayer is invalidated. So, to give you an example, this person, if the imam is standing, and this person, he performs a ruku' and says Sami Allahu liman hamida, he is sinful here. His prayer is still valid up to here. When is his prayer invalidated? Or rather, let's say the imam then does a ruku', and this person does a ruku' with the imam. Then his prayer will not be invalidated. Then he continues with the imam. That's one scenario. Second scenario is that the imam, right at the end of the prayer, okay, so let me start from that point. So this person, he performed a ruku', he straightened back up, and then the imam performed a ruku', straightened back up, and then they continued the prayer together, right? Then this person's prayer is invalidated when he says the salam with the imam. If he continues with the imam and he ends up saying the salam with the imam, then this person's prayer is invalidated. There's one scenario in which his prayer would not be invalidated, and that is that when when the imam says the salam, this person gets back up and performs that ruku'. He would perform that as part of another rak'ah, and then he would finish the prayer himself. In this scenario, his prayer is not invalidated. Does that make sense? Yeah? So if a person goes ahead of the imam in that way, we don't immediately say, you've invalidated your prayer is broken. No, we don't say that. We wait. he might repeat it with the imam, he might do the ruku' with the imam, so then his prayer is valid. He just finishes as normal. Or he waits till the end of the prayer and he performs that which he missed with the imam, he does it again. His prayer is valid. So I read this again. So we do not say that the prayer is invalidated unless he does not repeat this act in our example of ruku'. If he does not repeat it with his imam, then his prayer, if he does not repeat it with his imam and then continues, and the imam says salam, his prayer is invalidated. Or he does not complete it after the imam and says assalamu alaikum. As soon as he says assalamu alaikum with the imam, his prayer is invalidated because he didn't repeat it. Because in this example, if the follower were to perform ruku' and get up from the ruku' and stand up while the imam is still reciting, then when the imam goes into ruku', the follower should follow the imam and go into ruku'. Again, if he does that, then he has fulfilled the obligation of his prayer and the prayer will not be invalidated. If he doesn't follow the imam there, if he does not do that, then he must make it up later, after the imam finishes the prayer. I.e., the follower, he would go and perform a rak'ah, a whole rak'ah after the imam finishes. I.e., he stands up, and he does another rak'ah. If he does not do that, and he says assalamu alaikum to finish the prayer, then his prayer would be invalidated. Okay? So that is something that should be noted. Next here, the scholars mention 5 scenarios. 5 scenarios in this regard. When a person is following the imam and he differs with the imam, insha'Allah, next time we'll go through these 5 different scenarios. And we're going to, insha'Allah, remember them all and give reasons for them. Remember, the prayer, it's not, it has a system, it has rules. So it's not just like, yeah, I think that should be valid like that. Yeah, you did a ruku', should be alright. Okay, no, it has rules. You can't make the rules up. The rules have been transmitted by the scholars in their books, from mouths of trustworthy people to students of knowledge and so on, until they reached us. So it's not something that we can now just like in a revisionist way have a look at and say, well, yeah, that should be okay. No, it's conveyed. It's been conveyed to the Prophet ﷺ and then passed on. So that's why we do it in this way. In other words, knowledge, in order for a person to become knowledgeable, they must learn. They must learn just as the Prophet taught it ﷺ. Okay? So we've gone through today. Actually, there's one more thing I want to mention. Yeah, so we mentioned the structure, and we're going to elaborate upon that structure, insha'Allah, next lesson with some examples. Okay, I wanted to mention something just before we finish. So, imagine you're praying. Okay, imagine you're praying a 4 rak'ah prayer. You're praying al-Dhuhr or al-Asr or al-Isha. Okay? And when you're in the last rak'ah and you're sat down and you recited at tashahhud, you recited at tahiyyat, the imam stands up. The imam is confused, he's forgotten, and he stood up for a fifth rak'ah. Or it could be fajr. You're praying fajr and you're in the last rak'ah and you're waiting for the salam. Instead, what do you hear? Allahu Akbar. The imam stood up for a third. Or in al-maghrib, the imam stood up for a fourth, an extra rak'ah. What do you do? So there are implications then for the imam himself and for the ones following him. So if the imam accidentally stands up for an extra rak'ah, let's talk about the imam himself. If the imam remembers that this is an extra rak'ah, what am I doing? If the imam remembers before he goes into sajda, so the imam stood up, like in the household, it's morning, it's fajr, everyone's a little tired, everyone's praying behind him. He stands up for a third rak'ah. His wife's thinking, what's he doing? The children are thinking, what's happening? His brothers and sisters might be thinking, what's our brother doing? It's the first time we made him imam and he's standing for a third rak'ah in fajr, what's up here? So anyway, they're thinking what they're thinking. What they have to do is wait. They themselves have to wait. They have to wait until things transpire. So if he stands up and he remembers straight away, he sits down then. He has to sit down. Okay. If he starts, say he starts reciting, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And he continues, and then he says, Waladdallin. He starts reciting, Qul a'udhu bi Rabbin Nas, Malikin Nas. And he remembers, I'm praying an extra rak'ah. What should he do? Sits down. I'll say what he does later. He sits down. Okay. Up to here, they still follow him. Okay?
Are the followers not sitting down?
They are sitting down, yeah.
They're still sitting down for all the time?
They're waiting, yeah. They're waiting. They're waiting to see what happens because there's a cut-off point. So when he's writing Al-Fatiha, that cut-off point hasn't come yet. So still following him. When he's reciting Al-Fatiha and he's reciting a new surah, even the cut-off point hasn't come yet. Okay. Let's say he does ruku' and he remembers. He gets back up, Sami' Allahu liman hamida. He remembers. Here he sits down. Their prayer is still connected. Okay. But if he was to stand up and he goes down into sajda, now here that's the cut-off point. Here, what should those following? What should his siblings, his parents, or whoever's behind, what should they do? They intend to cut off from him and they continue their prayer and they end. They say the salam because they recited at-tahiyyat, they recited as-salatul ibrahimiyya, Rabbana atina, Rabbi ja'alni, they recited everything. Okay, what do? As soon as they say, he's going to sajda, as soon as he goes down, that's it. They say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, by themselves. And their prayer is fine. Okay? However, if he remembers before going into sajda, he by himself remembers, or he remembers because his son is saying, Subhanallah, or his daughter, she does this, she's hitting the back of her hand, he might be really tired, she's really trying, he does anyway. So he realizes, he either remembers or he hears Subhanallah. Sometimes that can happen. I'm telling you, like when you're the imam, someone says Subhanallah, you think, what's wrong now? What happened? Because you don't remember sometimes what you've done. So sometimes you think, they've got it wrong. I'm just going to continue for now. And sometimes people do. You might hear someone saying Subhanallah, because they realize they made a mistake. Okay? Sometimes you got to give it time. Anyway, so if he remembers and he sits down now, what does he do? They continue the prayer with him, and he will do what? Sujood as-sahu. Will they do it with him? Because it's wajib to do sujood as-sahu. Will they do it with him? Yes, because it's wajib to follow him. And then they will end the prayer as normal. They recite tahiyyat again and so on. Okay. As for if he performs the sajda in this extra rak'ah, then according to Abu Hanifa and Abu Yusuf, this prayer that was an obligatory prayer turns into an optional prayer. He's prayed 5 rak'ahs of a nafil prayer, which means what does he have to do? Or he's prayed 3 rak'ahs of a nafil prayer. What does he have to do after this? Yeah, he's not prayed the obligatory prayer because it's transformed into a nafil prayer. If someone is praying behind an imam and he stands for an extra rak'ah, the follower does not follow him, rather they wait. If the imam returns before making sujood, he prostrates for sujood as-sahu and they follow him and the prayer is valid. If he, however, performs sajda for a 5th rak'ah or extra rak'ah, they do salam by themselves. If they stand up with him for this extra rak'ah and they knew this is an extra rak'ah, their prayer is invalidated. It's not always, oh, Imam knows best. No, you need to think as well. Okay? The Imam stood up for a 5th. Well, oh, but this is a 5th. Okay, let's stand up with him. No, the prayer is invalidated like that. Because they know that it's not an extra, they know there's no extra, they know that there is no extra rak'ah in this prayer. So this rule, I've seen this happen 2 or 3 times, where I've not been the Imam, I've just been observing. You see all sorts of things. You see all sorts of things. The Imam says, Allahu Akbar. Some people from this side, who are all the way here, the Imam's there, they look over at the Imam like this. Because they don't know. Some people stand up, some people break away, some people say the salam, some people just wait, some people freeze because they have no idea what to do. And this should be known. So, all in all, what you do is you don't follow the Imam for the extra rak'ah, you just wait. You wait. Try to bring it to his attention. If he remembers before going into sajda, great, you follow him in sujood as-sahu. If he doesn't do sujood as-sahu, what do? Let's say he remembered and he sat down, and he didn't do sujood as-sahu, which he should have. What do? Do you do sujood as-sahu? No. Why? Because you're following him, right? It's wajib to follow him even if he misses a wajib. Yeah, then your prayer's done. Yeah? Then you complete your prayer. So you wait. And then after that, if he goes into sajda in the last rak'ah, then you say the salam. Okay? Anyone want to repeat it back to me? Inshallah. It's easy. I think it's easy. Okay? Inshallah, next week. Let's say, La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Okay. Okay.